What's up, everybody? Welcome to Venture Church Online. My name's Patrick.
I'm Jeff.
And we are super excited to be hanging out with you today. First thing we want you to do is go ahead and mash that share button so that you can let everybody know that you're hanging out with us. Hopefully, you are getting together with some friends, if you're comfortable, doing house church watch parties. And we want to say a big shout out to everyone that is having a house church watch party today. Good job. I'm glad you're together.
That's right. Hey, also, if you've been with Venture for a while now, you want to text online viewer, one word, to 97,000, online viewer to 97,000. And if you're new to Venture, text that in to 97,000, new to Venture, one word. You'll get a survey along the lines of questions of like, hey, can we pray for something for you guys? So go ahead and do that for us now. That'd be great.
That would be awesome. Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Do you know what today is?
What's that, man?
It is.
I know what it is.
Father's Day.
Yes, it is. I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that. Yes.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you too, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm talking to everybody else, but also to you. Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers.
That's true. That's
and
true. Not just me.
Not just Jeff. All fathers everywhere. Jeff, we want to do something special for Father's Day, right?
Right. Yeah. Let's get in the mood here. We're going to take ourselves, you guys, to a setting where some fathers were that kind of taught us some lessons and taught us how to be a good father coming up. Right. So Here we go.
Oh, that's Andy Griffith's house.
Yes, it is. Andy Griffith, the man.
That is a great TV father. Here's my favorite TV father's house.
Let us have it, Patrick. Yes.
That's right. That's the Star Trek Enterprise. Picard. Yes.
Engage. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Here we are. Well,
he taught me everything I needed to know about being a dad.
Okay, let's take this one step further. While we're in the location here, let's start a dad joke competition.
Oh man.
You cannot laugh. You cannot laugh.
All right, no laughing.
All right, I'm going first. Ready? It's all about me. All right, it's Father's Day. You know, Patrick, I made a pencil with 2 erasers. It was pointless.
Much like that joke. Hey, Jeff, what lies at the bottom of the ocean and twitches?
I don't know what.
A nervous wreck.
Mm-mm. Hey, Patrick, I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down.
Ha, ha, ha.
Hey, I got to laugh.
That was not a real laugh. That was a pity laugh.
We'll get a judge on calling it.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes?
Do you want to know a brief explanation of an acorn?
Yeah, go ahead.
In a nutshell, it's just an oak tree.
Just laughing about something else I thought about earlier.
Last one. One more.
Last one. Here we go. How do you make Kleenex dance?
How do you make a Kleenex dance?
Yes. You put a little boogie in it. Come on.
Hey.
NC.
What did one nut say to the other as he was chasing him down the road?
I don't know.
I'm a cashew.
That was a fake laugh. Good one.
Hey, and you can buy that shirt on my. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, dad jokes are the best. They're the reason I became a dad, and I didn't even know it. Let's go back to some regular place, and we will remind you that later on we are going to be having communion. So go ahead and get your communion gear ready. I've got my juice and I've got my cracker ready to go for later on after the message.
Mm-hmm. Also, I want to thank everybody who joined the beach worship. Beautiful weather. I mean, it was cloudy, rainy all day, and man, the skies opened up. It was beautiful. Tons of people there. Great singing. Appreciate everybody coming. It was awesome.
It was great to see all of your pretty faces, and even those of you that aren't pretty. I was glad to see you too.
Yeah.
But I got a very important question to ask. Venture kids, where you at?
Where you at? Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah. There were a bunch of Venture kids out at the beach too.
They were.
And right now we're going to have a great Venture Kids moment.
Hey Hey Venture Kids, how are you guys? I hope that your summer is off to a great start. I just wanted to share with you guys 2 ridiculous things this morning. Number 1, what if I was always telling you guys that my favorite color is orange? Orange this, orange that, always talking about orange. Sometimes I even taped a sign to my body to let everyone know my favorite color is orange. But what you started to notice was that I never colored any of my pictures with the orange crayon, and I didn't own any orange clothes, and I didn't choose the orange popsicle when they were passing them out. Instead, you started to see that every time we were hanging out, I had green things. This exact shade of turquoise green. And you started to question whether my favorite color was in fact orange. Example number 2. What if I told my boys every day the importance of eating vegetables? Vegetables are good for you. Vegetables make you strong and healthy. We must eat our vegetables before dessert. But they started to notice a significant lack of vegetables on my own plate. What they did see me eating was the stash of dark chocolate chips in the pantry. That would probably make them question all that I was saying about vegetables, right? And so, while these are really silly examples, the point is that if our actions don't match our words, people will begin to notice and doubt those words that we're saying. And so in our Sunday school lesson for today, which I hope you will do with your family or maybe with a group of friends, we are going to hear about a time where Peter was using his words one way, but his actions were saying something completely different. And it was a big deal. It was very harmful to a whole group of believers called Gentiles, which is what we are. And because of the way that Peter was acting towards them, other believers started acting that same way. And Paul actually had to come and call Peter out and say, your actions are not matching your words. This is not right. And so I just want to encourage all of us to make sure our actions are lined up with the words that we are saying. We can say one thing and then go off and do another. And not only will that be misleading for people, but it can make them doubt our witness for Jesus. Actions truly do speak louder than words. 1 John 3:18 says, "Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." And so I have a challenge for you guys today. This is a very special day, right? A day we celebrate our dads. And so it will be awesome for you to use your words to tell them, Happy Father's Day! Happy Father's Day! But then I want you to go out and make your actions match those words. Do something to show your dads just how grateful you are for them. All right, Venture Kids, that's it. Have a good day.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Venture Church, guys. Hey, let's spend some time worshiping our awesome God. This song is This Is Amazing Grace.
Who breaks the bow of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless and awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. 'This is amazing grace. that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the earth a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nation with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of his brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place. Oh God, that you would bear my cross. You would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place. Oh God, that you would bear my cross. You would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
We're going to lead you in this next song. It's a kind of new one for us. It's called Waymaker. And it's really just a story of what God does in our life when things are crazy. But then he steps in and he makes a way. Join me. You are here. You are here, moving in our midst. We worship you. We worship you. And you are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Here's the chorus. 'Cause you are a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Sing that again. You are a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. Lord, I worship you. 'Cause you are a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Listen to this this next part. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Jesus, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. And that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop, 'cause Jesus, you are waymaker, miracle maker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
Waymaker. Do we ever need a waymaker right now? I love that God can come into the chaos of this world and make sense of it. And so thank you, Kaylee, for leading us in worship this week. You've got a beautiful voice. It was a pleasure to lead some songs with you. And I love to see our teenagers step up and lead us. So that's awesome. Hey, I got a couple of quick announcements before we get into our teaching time today. First of all, not really an announcement, but just to say, Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. All you dads out there, thank you for what you're doing. The world needs good dads. You guys, if you have a father or a father figure in your life, don't forget to shoot them a text or give them a call today or buy them a power tool, like whatever it is that you need to do to express your love and appreciation for them. And so being a father has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And so I hope I'm doing a good job, and I hope that we can all, dads, stand together as we try to do that together. A couple of other things to say. First of all, you guys who were with us at our beach worship night last Sunday, wasn't that great? We had about 60 of our people show up on the beach. I didn't know how many I expected to see, but that was a great number to see. And we've had some guests join us and some friends from other churches in town who heard about it and came along. It was just great to get to do that, to worship God and His creation. And we hope to have more times like that as we continue through phase 2 and the gatherings that we want to have together. I'm sure you're curious about what's happening with our meeting, and I want to give you an update again, as I've been trying to do as often as possible. We have assembled a team of people, a great group, who is kind of our task force as a church to decide what's best in terms of how we meet. And I was just overwhelmed with the response we got this week from that team. It was very reassuring to know the mindsets were pretty consistent. And so for right now, I do want to tell you that our plan for at least through phase 2, and we're not going to even say things out loud beyond that because we don't know what is going to be going on with this virus. But we want to really encourage during this phase 2 period that you embrace the idea of the house church watch party. I have learned this week that there are at least 3 other house churches that I didn't even realize were meeting, and it's just because you guys weren't, letting us know, which is fine. You don't owe us anything. We don't, you don't owe us anything to earn gold stars in heaven or anything. But if you are hosting a house church, if you would, please reply to our text thread. The 97,000 number is just a number you can text information to. So it doesn't have to be for the survey. You can just say, hey, this is Bill, and we have a house church. There's this many people here. It really helps us know who we're ministering to and how we can best love you guys. And so I want to encourage you, if you feel up to it and able to get out and be part of a house church or host one, that's even better. We are putting a lot of energy into producing a great video content for you to watch together. And so yeah, do that. Let us know if you're in a position where you just can't do that for health reasons or whatever other personal reasons you have. No harm, no foul, and no shame in that. That's totally fine. But as more information comes about how we want to continue gathering together, I'll be sure to make sure you know. Otherwise, though, we do have our next Hangout event. And so that's the last announcement before I jump into our teaching is on July 5th. We're going to have our Tailgate Church. It's going to be at the YMCA. The idea is that you would get there a little bit before 10 o'clock. We're going to be kind of getting the word out this week about the details of that because it's just coming up in just a couple of weeks. And to come out, and we're going to have a pulled pork barbecue that one of our guys, Rob, is going to provide with some friends. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be paid for. You don't have to worry about paying for that. But if you will bring a side, that would be great. We sent out a survey last week and got a really good response. Looks like we're going to have a great crowd there. But we will be exercising some intentional social distancing, asking you to park in certain areas because as the crowd gets bigger, then you run into the issue of having too large of a crowd, and so we want to be able to enjoy that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. July 5th, it's a holiday weekend, but come on, it's Sunday morning. Come on out for just a couple of hours to hang with your church family, have some lunch, and then go back out and do whatever festivities that you're going to do safely. But that is July 5th, and because it looks like we might be doing this watch party scenario for a little bit longer, I do want to let you know we're going to be trying to plan some more outside events for our church family to get together. So those are the announcements we got going right now. And it's time to get into today's teaching. Here we go. I wish I could remember what I had done to make this girl so mad. I cannot even remember the little girl's name. We were young kids, maybe 3rd or 4th grade, elementary school, and all I remember is sitting in my desk. You remember there's a little desk with the little space underneath them for your books. Like sitting in that desk and knowing that the girl in front of me was super mad. Seems like maybe I called her a name or like pulled her pigtails or something. You know, they love that. But I don't know what I did wrong. But what I do remember is that I wrote her a note. And it was on an index card, and I used like every crown in the box. Like I wanted this index card to be special, and it was a picture that I drew of just 2 words, and those 2 words were, "I'm sorry." I'm sorry. I don't remember what I was sorry about. Not a clue what class we were in. I only remember that I felt some guilt about something, and I felt like I needed to tell her that I was sorry for that thing. So I wrote her this note, colored it. It was all pretty. I tapped her on the shoulder. And she turned around, she said, "What?" And I said, "I made you this." And she didn't skip a beat, man, with just like fire in her eyes. She looked at me and she said, "You spelled it wrong. Sorry has 2 R's. And then she turned back around. I was just, what do you do? What did I do wrong? Like, my mama always taught me that you're supposed to say, "I'm sorry." So I did. Ma, I know you're watching this. What did I do wrong? Like, let me know. Shoot me a text. I don't know what I did wrong. I tried, and I don't think she forgave me. Man, I love to tell stories, and the reason I tell that story today is because we're talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness. And I don't know that I got any forgiveness that day. We're in this teaching series called Long Story Short, and we're going through some of the parables that Jesus taught, and one of the stories that he tells is about forgiveness. And I don't think that the little girl in my 3rd grade class had ever heard this parable, because I think if she had, things would have gone differently. I really believe that. But we're going to be looking at that, forgiveness. Forgiveness is God's greatest gift to us. And it's also something that he expects us to give to other people in return. And so Jesus did some strong teaching on forgiveness in his time here on earth. And so what we're going to do is jump right into today's story and hear a parable from Jesus. If you've got a Bible, flip over or scroll down on your device to Matthew chapter 18. Here Jesus is with his disciples again, and they're going through a time of teaching. There's several teaching things happening in Matthew chapter 18. But when we get to verse 21, we see Peter. Now, he tends to be the most vocal of the disciples, and he has a question that's going to kick us off. So let's take a look at that. Matthew 18, verse 21. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? So just previous to this question, Jesus had been doing some teaching on what to do if someone had done you wrong. And it was the steps you can take. And really good teaching. You should go check that out. It's a really good way to deal with conflict, both within the church, which is kind of the context or whatever for, with people who believe like you, but also beyond that circle of people, how you can approach people who do you wrong. And so this has got Peter's mind, turning. And he's like, all right, so I'm thinking about people doing me wrong. So I got a question. I'm trying to understand what you're saying about people who do me wrong. I know you want us to extend some grace to them, some forgiveness. So brass tacks here, Jesus. How many times should we forgive them? I mean, there's got to be a limit, right? 7 times? There was a tradition at the time for Jews that you should be willing to forgive someone up to 3 times for the same offense. Not 4 times, 3 times. 3 times you're good, 4 times you're dead to me. Like that's just, it was a hard line at 3, and that was the tradition. And so Peter, who had heard Jesus speak many times, for example, in Matthew chapter 6, verse 14, we get this teaching from Jesus about forgiveness. He says, for if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. And so Peter sees forgiveness is pretty important to God. And so he takes some steps here. He's like, well, tradition says we should forgive people, up to 3 times. So let me raise the bar on that. How about 7 times? It seems generous. He more than doubles the cultural standard of the day. But then Jesus responds to him with an answer that I think probably surprised Peter. He says, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. A couple of cool things here about this 77 times here. If you've heard this teaching before, you might have a couple of ideas, and this is some that I've come to understand. The first one is this. Jews were notoriously interested in symbolism when it came to numbers. And so the number 7, very important number to the Jews. And one thing that the number 7 can symbolize is completion, even perfection. But maybe what Jesus was saying when he said 77 times, like 2 sevens, 7 and 7, 77 times, you should forgive completely if 7 equals completeness. And so maybe that's one thing that Jesus meant. Perhaps. I think that that's actually something that lines up very good with what Jesus says. Here's a second idea of what Jesus might have been referring to at that time. Jesus could have been being literal. Like he meant 77 times, not 78 times. When you get to 76 times, one more time and you're done. I don't think that Jesus was being literal here. The rest of the context doesn't seem to show that, but still seems like way more generous than 3, even more generous than 7. But I think there's a third option, and it might go along with something that the disciples would have recognized. So I've said before, when a Jewish rabbi was teaching, he would very often refer to Old Testament concepts and expect his students to just pick up on it. And when we do this all the time, if you say, well, it's like Honest Abe, I mean, we get that. It's part of our culture. We understand. Well, there was a phrase having to do with 77 that was very familiar to these guys, and it had to do with one of the Old Testament's most notorious villains, Cain. So if you look at Genesis chapter 4, verse 24, this might have been the first thing that the disciples thought about when he said 77 times. It says, if Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. So there's that phrase. What does it mean? That idea tied itself to what was seen as the evilness of Cain and his family line. Because this is Cain here. He's this guy who commits the first murder in history. He kills his brother Abel. And then by extension, his family tree becomes kind of synonymous with evil. In fact, his great, I think 6 or 7 generations grandson is this guy named Lamech. And when you read about him, that passage we just read is a poem about Lamech and basically how evil he was. He was ready to kill just about anybody for just about anything. And so when Jesus says that, it's almost as if he's saying, Peter says, should we forgive him 7 times? And Jesus is like, how about 77 times? How about we forgive someone until they are at least as bad off as Cain and Lamech? Like, so, and I don't know if I'm fully representing what the disciples must have understood about that, but I think we get the big picture. When Jesus talks about forgiveness, he's talking about we need to be willing to forgive many, many, many times. And we're going to see here in just a second that it's because it's at the heart of God to be merciful and to forgive, which is where we get into today's parable. Jesus uses the story we're going to read today as his teaching point to explain forgiveness. And we're going to break this up into what I'm going to kind of call like 3 acts, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, like a play. And so we're going to jump into our first act here of this parable, Matthew chapter 18, starting at verse 23. Jesus says, "Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay it, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children all be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. 'Be patient with me,' he begged, 'and I will pay back everything.' The servant's master took pity on him and canceled the debt and let him go." I try to teach on forgiveness at least once a year because I've learned that it's one of the areas of our life that we have the most problem with. I mean, we are a grudge-holding, frustrated society. A lot of our pain that we're going through today is our inability to let go of things that happened in the past. Even what we're dealing with race relations and unity on those lines. I mean, a lot of it stems from whether it was victims or perpetrators of our inability to simply forgive. Because it's hard. It is extremely hard to let something go when something's done against you. And so I don't think that we're that much different than Jesus' original audience as this goes. And so I think that's why Jesus brings it up here. We're talking about forgiveness. And Jesus goes directly to one of the things that we tend to value the most to make his point. And that thing is our money. Okay, so forgiveness was originally a financial term. If you have a debt and that debt is canceled, you have been forgiven of that debt. It's a really good feeling, isn't it? And so this guy had some debt. I mean, 10,000 bags of gold. Do you have 10,000 bags of anything? I can't think of anything that I could fill up 10,000 bags with. If I went to the beach and started filling up bags with sand, I don't think I would have the patience to fill up 10,000 bags. Now, some have estimated that 10,000 bags of gold is roughly equivalent to 3 lifetimes of salary at Jesus' time. Okay, so we're talking just an insurmountable amount of debt. A crazy amount. Okay, so that's the story. And you got this king. Now the king, we're learning that in parables, the king generally represents, or an authority figure rather, represents God in a parable. And so the king represents God. So you got God. He's calling someone to the table for an immense amount of debt. And of course the guy can't pay it. I mean, how are you going to pay 3 lifetimes worth of debt? So this king suggests that let's sell your family. We'll sell your wife. We'll sell your kids. Now, is that going to pay off 3 lifetimes worth of debt? No, but it's better to get something rather than nothing. But then something unexpected happens here. The man begs for mercy, and the king just wipes the slate clean. He forgives the entire debt. Unheard of, ridiculous, crazy. Now, I want to take a time out right here. I want to pause, okay? Because odds are good that a lot of us have heard this story before. Shoot, at Venture Church, I have taught through the story a number of times over the last 4 or 5 years from different angles. And so remember, parables are meant to be pondered. They're meant to be thought about. They're not meant to be solved or completely, I've got, the end of the story. It's not like a biography that we want to rush to the end to get to the end. We want to sit on it. We want to let it marinate for a little while. And so if you've heard this before, here's what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to forget what you think you know about this parable. Okay, we've approached it a couple of different ways in the past, generally one specific way. But I think there's more that this parable can teach us today than you might think. So let's hear this with fresh ears this time. The first guy, the king's servant, is forgiven a huge debt, a lifetime's worth of debt. Then we're going to get to our second act, Matthew chapter 18, verse 28. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. Okay, by comparison, this is about 3 months' salary versus 3 lifetimes of salary. Continue. He grabbed him. He began to choke him. "Pay me back what you owe me," he demanded. His fellow servant fell on his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay it back." But he refused, and instead he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay it back. And when the other servants saw what had happened, they were outraged, and they went and told their master everything that had happened. So the first servant has just been forgiven an enormous debt, one that he could never pay back, 3 lifetimes worth of salary. And he's got the nerve to walk right outside the king's house, find some dude who owed him a good amount of money. 3 months' salary is no joke. But to not just ask the money back. Like, I think that might have been acceptable. Maybe the guy had needs. He couldn't afford groceries that day. He obviously was hard up for cash because he couldn't pay his own debt. Maybe he just needed a little bit of money. But he's violent with this guy. He begins to choke this guy. Maybe you've asked somebody to pay you back something that they owe you. If you have ever resorted to choking them, you have gone too far. This guy is choking. Okay, so then we get to Act 3, because if you're frustrated with this guy, you're not the only one. Okay, then the master called the servant in. "You wicked servant," he said. "I canceled all the debt of yours because you begged me. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?" In anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. And then Jesus continues to his point, verse 35. "This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart." And so there it is again, forgiveness. What do we do with that? Well, on the surface, there's an easy teaching. I've been giving each week a long story short summary, like a sentence. And so this is probably what it is, that God expects us to forgive others because he has forgiven us. And that is a great lesson to learn. That's definitely the surface level story. Forgiveness is a big deal to God. We should forgive other people. But I want to take it a step further today. As a church, because we've looked at this parable a number of times from different angles, generally we look at it from asking the question, what does it look like for me to forgive other people? Again, that's probably the biggest lesson to walk away with. What does it look like for me to forgive other people? But remember, parables are meant to ask us questions that we can chew on for later. And so if that's our answer, I think the question we're asking ourselves is like something like, what does it look like for you to forgive other people? Like, that's probably the question that we're initially asking. What does it look like for you to forgive other people? But today I want to ask us another question, okay? And this is a question I want us to chew on for the rest of our time together, and hopefully something that you can take home with you today. How should God's forgiveness change us? How should God's forgiveness change us? So this is where Jesus is teaching me to forgive people, right? That's what this story is. But it's also a glaring accusation of me. I don't know if you see the accusation. Do you see it? It's right there in the story, but I think that we just skip right over it because it hurts too bad. Of the three main characters in the story, okay, so we got a king, we got the first servant, and we got the second servant. The king represents who? That's God, okay? And who do you think is supposed to relate most in the story to the hearer of the story? So Peter has asked this question. Who do you think Jesus is hoping Peter will relate to? The first servant, the one who goes and gets called in for 10,000 bags of gold. We as the student and we as the hearer, that's also, I think, who we should most relate with. And the first thing we learn about that first servant, okay, so that's me and you in the parable. What's the first thing we learn? That this dude is up to his eyeballs in debt, like insurmountable debt. Jesus is pointing out just how crazy in debt this guy is, and by exchange, he's sharing with me, this is the accusation, just how jacked up my soul is when Jesus isn't in it. Do you see that? Like, the point of the story begins saying, hey, listen, you listener, you have an insurmountable debt to the master, to the king, to God. It's time to pay up. Now, the promise of Jesus is that he will forgive. So how should God's forgiveness change me? Carrying a burden of debt is something that I know a little bit about. One example, my wife and I owned a house in Greenville, North Carolina, but for about the last 7 or 8 years, we have been the landlords of that property. If you've ever been a landlord, you know that it's everything that people say that it is. And so, it was a rough situation. We had, constantly, we had some good tenants, but we had a string of bad tenants or tenants who couldn't pay on time. And it's funny how banks are about mortgages. If they don't pay us and we don't pay the bank, then we're in trouble. So here we are paying like double living expenses when they don't pay. I ended up having to evict a lady once. That was terrible. I had to do. We had some people who didn't take care of our property very well. Every few months I'd get a call like, the AC is broken or there's a leak in the kitchen. Or I once had this tenant who she didn't hook up her washing machine correctly, and she didn't realize there was a steady trickle of water just running down the back wall behind the washing machine for like months, and it puddled deep inside her underneath the laundry room area. She still didn't notice it until it leaked all the way through the wall and into the bedroom and halfway across the room, soaking into her carpet. Yeah, that's rough. And then she calls me. She's like, can you come fix this? I'm like, you can't fix that. You got to replace that. That's what you got to do. And so, it was everything we dreamed it would be. And the house was a financial debt. It was a pain because it was also a little bit upside down. For a while, it lived in a depreciating neighborhood. And so there was a point where we actually owed more on it than it was worth. But one day, this was last year, we sold that house. And we actually made just a tiny little profit on it. And let me tell you, we were singing with the angels that day. We were dancing and cheering. And hardly a month goes by where me or my wife doesn't look at each other and go, hey, we don't own a house in Greenville anymore. Because here's the deal. The debt is gone. It's not hanging over our head anymore. And so when you understand when a debt is completely forgiven, maybe you've paid off a car or a student loan or a house or a big debt that you just owed somebody for something, isn't that this feeling of like, I can breathe now? God's offer is that he would come in and completely forgive the debt of sin that we owe him. That is the gospel narrative. That's what the Bible teaches us. That's what the church exists to talk about. So immediately I'm reminded of what the Apostle Paul says in the book of Ephesians chapter 2. Listen to the way he describes this relief of debt. He says, as for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving wrath. Okay, so that's the picture of debt. Like, it's not a pretty picture. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich, what is God rich in? Mercy. God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in our transgressions. It is by grace that you've been saved. So let me take us back to our question. How should God's forgiveness change us? Well, it should change everything about us, particularly based on this parable, how we interact with the world around us. Should we forgive people? Yes, that's the first lesson of this story, but it's more than that. It should work out in my integrity at work. It should work out in how it shapes the language that I use. It should shape the way that I spend my time. It should shape the entertainment that I consume. It should shape the way that I raise my kids and that I interact with my wife and my neighbor. It should change all of me every time I think about it. My whole worldview should jump with joy and praise God because I want to seek and honor that merciful King who forgave my debt. And then every time I think about it, I go, I don't own a house in Greenville anymore. You know? I've been forgiven. God loves me and I'm standing in his kingdom. Have you had that conversation with God? The one where God calls you to the table? The one where you're made aware of the huge insurmountable debt that you could never pay off. maybe you're just realizing it for the first time today. And I want you to know, today could be that fresh start for you. You can accept Christ into your life. If you're with a house church watch party right now, talk to somebody about it before you leave. One of the first things we're taught to do when we accept Jesus is that we enter into a covenant with him through baptism. Let's celebrate a baptism today for you. Let somebody know. We'll do it. Take a picture. Share it online. It'd be awesome to know that you had that conversation with the King and he's agreed to forgive your debt. Or maybe you've been thinking about giving it over to Jesus for a while, but you just haven't. What's standing in your way? What's stopping you? Let's do that. Let's make that decision. But maybe for you, it's been years since you made that decision. And so maybe you don't clearly remember what it felt like to be forgiven. How should it change you? Well, I'm going to tell you this. It is so much better than selling a house or paying off a student loan. The knowledge that the King has pardoned you from your sin and given you a fresh start. So here's what I want you to do. If you've already made this decision, even if it was a long time ago, or maybe you're making it today for the first time, let's all go collectively to that fresh start point. Let's go there, okay? Today, the King has just offered you pardon. It is, June 21st, 2020. And so today, as you wrap up your house church watch party, or as you close your laptop and go on with your day, and you turn to face the world, how should God's forgiveness change you as other people see you? What should it impact? It's a parable. You're supposed to think about it. I don't have the clearest answer for you, but I do want to do this. I gave you a long story short statement earlier, and it's a pretty good one. But I want to update my long story short statement for you to think about this week, and it's this. God's forgiveness should reshape how we interact with the world. God's forgiveness should reshape how we interact with the world. So today, before you post it, before you say it, before you buy it, before you rant about it, before you do it, whatever it is you're going to do, before anything, remember what the King has offered. And let's reshape the world around the grace of our merciful King. That's today's long story short. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your forgiveness. Thank you for your mercy and your grace and this story that teaches us that you want us to pay it forward to other people. Forgiveness is such a big deal. Thank you that you are willing to give it to me. And I pray that every day I can wake up with that renewed sense of excitement, knowing that the King has pardoned me, but also that it shapes who I am and how I interact with the world around me. Lord, help us be a people who live in that grace in such a way that the world can hardly but notice that you're in it. We love you, Lord, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Oh, man, Chris, thank you so much for that message. That idea that God's forgiveness should change the way we interact. It's such a powerful thought.
Yes, it is.
I hope that I can let God's forgiveness in my life show me how to live a different way. One of my favorite bands has a song that says, if he's really inside changing my life, it should be evident that there's a difference. And I hope that that is true for each and every one of us as we go about our days and our lives. That God's forgiveness shines and shows everybody that we're different. We are getting ready to move into a time of communion. If you haven't yet grabbed your gear, your accoutrement, go ahead and do that now. Some juice, some wine, some whatever you've got. I believe that it's about your heart, not so much about exactly what you're using as the emblems, and some bread, cookie, whatever you got. Get it together as we get ready to move into this time. If you are not at a place in your walk with Christ that you feel like communion is something that you want to do, or it feels awkward doing it online, I encourage you to stick around. Continue in a time of prayer. Continue in a time of reflection of what's been said today, so that you can hear some of what's going on the back end of this. Jeff, can I have you start our reading today?
Sure. 1 Corinthians 11, we're going to go to verse 23 and 24. For I have received the Lord himself, that which I pass on to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night in which he was betrayed, he took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is a sacrifice for you."
In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me."
I like to say, just in reflection, Patrick, this is probably the most important thing you can do, I think, during the service is really reflect on this is Father's Day, reflecting on what our Father did for us. He sacrificed his son's life for us. And as a father, I couldn't imagine doing that myself for my kids. It'd be too much. I couldn't do it. And he did it for us. So it's a great time to think about that. Think about the heart he has, the love he has for us. That's amazing love. So I appreciate this time to do that.
So let's take the next couple minutes, listen to this song, and reflect on God's love for us.
Yes.
Father God, I thank you so much for your forgiveness. I thank you that even though I screw up, even though I fall, even though I fail, even though I am as far from perfect as someone could be, that you love me enough to wash that away, to forgive me my 10,000 bags of sin. Help that to be something that shapes me, something that is in every thought and every action and every interaction that I have, to know that I have been forgiven much, so I should forgive even more. Be with us this week. Help us to focus our lives on you and your grace. So you know we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us again. We got some good news for you. Quick announcement. Reminder, on July 5th, Tailgate Church, delicious food on the 5th. That's right. You should have already gotten a text, an RSVP, so you know that's coming. But check our Facebook events page for more information. So there you are.
Yeah, and I want to say one more time, Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean everybody else again, not just
everybody else again. But happy Father's Day. Enjoy your day. Spend some time with your kids. If you don't live with your dad, give him a call. He'll
You betcha.
appreciate it.
Good idea. And also, if you've been trusting God also by making giving to Venture Church, part of that worship each month, thank you for your generosity. Of course, you can continue doing that online or start now at jointheventure.com/give.
That's right. One more last thing to say today, and that is shine light in dark places. We'll see you guys next time. Hey, Jeff, knock, knock.
Who's there, bud?
Dishes.
Dishes who?
Dishes Sean Connery.
Very good. Welcome to the rock.
Very nice.
Very nice. Sean.